Welcome to Midweek, church. Thanks so much for joining us. As we said last week, this is just a segment that lets us dig into a few things that happen behind the scenes at church and a little bit of an opportunity to maybe journey a little deeper with people. So today, I got David Stanford with me. Now, most of you know a little bit at least about David. You've certainly seen him and heard from him. But I'd like to know a little bit more about your background, David. What led you into being in ministry?
Well, I used to be a high school mathematics teacher, and I did that for 12 years, and then the leadership invited me to come on as the second youth minister. So I'd been a part of this church since 1972. So we moved into this premise down in the Collier Pines area in December '88, and so I started full-time as the second youth minister in January '89. So I've been here ever since. My role's changed nearly every year, but I'm still here, still alive.
And now you're our longest serving staff member.
I am.
As a result. So now, I guess over that duration, all sorts of things have happened, and part of that is how do you maintain your passion? What encourages you? What builds you up? What are the sort of things that help you maintain your passion?
For me, it's actually experiencing God working, and you don't always see that. So therefore I have to continually keep digging in deeper with God. May sound a bit of a cliche, but boy, the deeper I go with God, the more anticipation He gives me that something's always going to happen. There's always a divine appointment around. So I think the other thing that really has helped me maintain my passion is being privileged to do quite a bit of overseas ministry as well. And that just gives me a good look at what God is doing in other places. And it gives me a sense of, wow, this is the same God who's at work there, and He's also able to work here. So I think being involved in places like the Philippines and Myanmar and Nepal and India and Thailand, different places like that, has really kept my spiritual fervour up, and that's been good. Plus, my changing role often has been helpful as well.
Now, I think people would probably know you as a prayer guy, a guy who's invested in prayer and challenges us to pray. Now, some years ago, you went to a prayer summit, and that shifted things for you.
Very much did. Back in, would have been about 1998, they decided to have these pastors' prayer summits where they put you in a bus and they took you away, or buses. We had about 120 of us from across the spectrum of Christendom, of leadership, and went down to a campsite. They took us in buses so we couldn't escape and come home, and the whole thing was to seek the face of God, not seek His hand. And that completely changed my understanding of church, because suddenly I'm with people who I'd never met before and really didn't think they were on the right track, and we're now praying passionately together, and it just completely changed my understanding of church. And I realised church is like this manifold wisdom of God. It's like this multi-flavour that I'd never experienced. Whereas before I'd always been thinking, well, we're right in what we believe, so they must be wrong in some areas. Completely shifted that. I got a greater understanding of unity. Some of my best friends have come out of 98, 99 experiences in prayer summits. Just totally changed my life. And it gave me a greater appreciation for who God is and how God works as well. So yeah. So that's where it really shifted for me.
So as a guy who's passionate about prayer, a guy who's come out of being a school teacher and youth ministry, you've recently been catching up with some people who've been pretty inspirational to you. In the last sort of 48 hours, you've seen a couple of people in chaplaincy who've really brought some interesting stuff in front of you.
Yeah, like this morning, for example, I was praying with the Wesley College chaplain, and he's been there 9 years. I was praying with some others as well, and he prays every morning at 5:30 to 6:30, Monday to Friday, he prays for that school. He prays for the city of South Perth. And when I heard about that, I thought, I've got to meet this guy, and he's fantastic. And it's really interesting because a couple of weeks ago I met Claire, who's the chaplain at Penrose, in a divine appointment as well. And when I was youth ministry, I used to have a lot to do with the chaplains in Penrose and Wesley, because we'd take speakers there and do different things with them. But I didn't know who it was in Penrose, and so I got to meet Claire a while back, and so we're now exploring how do we partner with her, because she sort of indicated to me that she was feeling really isolated. And I said, you got one of the biggest churches in Perth, and we are on your team, because I mean Penrose is very close to our premises, and so it's been great to actually look at how do we partner with these people who are in chaplaincy. And even this morning I've been reading through 1 Timothy, and 1 Timothy 2, you know, the first verse of 1 Timothy 2 says, you know, I want you to constantly be in prayer. Pray for everyone. I urge you to pray. Pray for those in government, pray for leadership. And then verse 8 of chapter 2, he says, I want men, and we'll put women in there as well, I want men everywhere to lift up holy hands in prayer without anger and disputes. And I thought, you know, that's just a passionate thing. God, for some reason, God will do things when we pray that he doesn't do if we don't pray. I don't know the mystery of that, but I know that stuff happens when people pray. And so to be linking in more and more with, say, the chaplains and the South Perth ministers from the area as well, they're a great group that we've got together in the last couple of years, and we love praying, and we sense this whole sense of team there. It's just been great. So yeah, it's exciting what God's doing through the city.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. Now, I think one of the things that struck me when you were talking to me about the Wesley chaplain was that he prays on his own, but he went across the road to just have a bit of space, get a coffee.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, he went across to a cafe, Halo actually, which used to be under the auspices of the Bond family. And he went there really early, and he was surprised that the door was open, and he said, oh, did you just open it for me? And she said, no. There's a group of people up in the upper room praying. She said they've been there since 6:15 and they pray through till about 8. I have no idea who they are, but it's just another encouragement that there's people in the city of South Perth praying for whatever God's doing here. And so it's good.
Yeah. I think, you know, church, one of the things that comes out of this is that when we pray, we are seeking God's face, but he gets active. And I think the encouragement is that even if you're praying on your own, you don't know that others are praying or not, but they are. God lifts people to be praying for the things that he's laid on their hearts.
Yeah, definitely. And I must admit, we've just been thinking about the whole Gideon's army, because prayer is stating basically that we're very dependent on God. And the Gideon's army is a small army. God had to, Gideon's a judge in the Old Testament, the book of Judges, and God had to reduce the size of his army so that they got to a point where it was almost impossible, so that God's glory would be revealed rather than man's glory. And we're just thinking here, right now, how do we create small Gideon armies? So if you are a prayer, and you think, I want to be involved in small group prayer for our city, for our church, for everything that is happening beyond us, then please let us know, because we want to develop a team of Gideon armies that are really taking this prayer thing seriously. It is good to pray by ourselves. We've got to be praying by ourselves, but I personally love praying with other people as well. It gives me an extra energy as I pray with other like-minded people.
Yeah, I think just back to who David is, you know, I find David's one of those people that in a team just lifts the energy, and I think if you've ever seen any of his messages, you understand what I mean. He brings an energy to the room. Through this year, we had to change the way we did things. Rooms weren't as available through the COVID era, and so we had online rooms and Zoom prayer. Who would have thought that this would be where you'd be?
Yeah, no, I've been fortunate. I have about 5 or 6 prayer meetings I'm a part of each week, and there's still 3 that still meet on Zoom for prayer. And it's so good because people can be around the city, and we can link in, and we can pray, and they don't have to leave their home, at night or early in the morning. So I love Zoom prayers. So once again, if that's something you could be involved in, 3 or 4 of you praying on Zoom or on Facebook or WhatsApp, just getting together to pray. You may have kids, you might not be going out at night or whatever. You can do it from your own room at any time. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. So look, let me encourage you again, church. There's no expectation, no condemnation here, no judgment about this. It's rather, there are so many different ways to pray, and simply just to seek, God, what are you doing here? God, what do you need me to be available for? Or God, what would you have me pray into? There are so many ways to be led in this space, and ways to engage with other people, to be individual, or to meet even when you can't physically be together. It's just a super important part of our spiritual life. So, yeah. Thanks for joining us this week.
Yep.
Hope you have a blessed week.
Bless you heaps. See ya.
See ya.